This week on the Baseline Podcast, Josh and I break down the awesome weekend we had of college football. We talk about Ohio State struggling with Maryland. We talk about USC scarily almost losing to Arizona. And we also talk about the big game of Oklahoma beating Texas. All that and so much more coming up on the Baseline Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben, that's Josh, and we are here alive and well. How are you doing there, Mr. Burris? How are you doing on this fine Wednesday as we're recording this, I guess, late afternoon for you? How are you doing?
Yeah, we're hanging in there, man. MLB playoffs have been pretty exciting to watch up to this point.
Oh, that's true.
NHL is underway, correct? The NBA will start in a couple weeks, and then we'll have all four major sports leagues going on at once.
And you know what's crazy right now, Josh, is the fact that you play one of my coaches this week in fantasy college football. Fun fact, Josh hasn't logged on since, what did you tell me before the show started? Since week one.
I made my lineup up on the first week, and
yet he's still 3-3. What a talent Josh Burris is.
Too much work to do in fantasy football in the NFL, man. Too much work over there to do.
See, all I know is, man, I'm dominating college football. I might suck at every other fantasy, but I got that down pat. It does help when you have, MAC players that are lighting it up against MAC teams. It really helps your scores. But no, in general, it's awesome to have you here, Josh, and everyone listening, because we're back in action this week. But we did want to bring up a couple of things. First, I think Josh and I, if you saw on our Instagram story, we did post about the situation going on in Israel right now. Obviously, I'm in Europe, so it's a lot more louder, I guess, here, not like visually or audibly, but like just the news is circulating. Obviously, people are coming here from Israel to escape everything. But I think Josh can say, as long with me, our prayers are for people in Israel, for God chosen people, and for me, my cousin-in-law, he has family still in Israel, so again, prayers for them, and prayers for everyone there in there. Anything you would like to say on that there, Josh?
No, just looking out for the innocent.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a lot of
bloodshed.
So
a lot of bloodshed. So yeah, that's what's going on. So we did want to start out with that as we go to show, and then let's move into some college football. Before we get into college football, though, Josh, the guy you're playing in fantasy this week did tell me, by the way, that he ran into in the Toronto airport. He ran into the guy who runs Nelk Boys. Like the guy. I don't even know his name because I'm not good with names like that. But you could probably tell me, though, one of the main guys.
No, I can't either. If it's not Steve, if it's not Kyle,
it's one of the guys. It's one of the guys that like is on the actual show like every week.
Well, that's two of the guys.
Yeah, or whoever it is. So, anyways,
I don't know.
All I'm saying is he has the connection now, and so I'm saying maybe we can get him, because they're like hooked up, I guess, cross paths or what. I don't know how they connected, but they said they would reconnect possibly in the future. So, hey, who knows? Maybe we could be a part of the Nelk Boys podcast.
You can do it.
Hey, you can do it too. You can do it, Josh. You can do it. No, in general, I thought that was very interesting. But no, college football, Josh, it was a wild weekend. And I just want to point out, this guy was right about Oklahoma and Texas. I'm just going to point out right now. Called it.
I can tell you that the reason Oklahoma won is exactly the reason I said was the only way they could win. I just didn't think it happened. Dylan Gabriel showed up, had a big game after I took him out of my Heisman rankings. Texas, who I said would destroy the battle at the line of scrimmage, could not get a touchdown on 4 straight plays on the goal line.
Nope.
And then a slow start by Quinn Ewers didn't help either. So the plan, or the path for an Oklahoma victory that I described did happen.
Yeah.
I just didn't think it happened. So I'm going to give myself 50% credit.
Okay, fine. You get 50% credit. Let's talk about that Oklahoma-Texas game. We'll start there and we'll kind of go through a recap, and then we'll preview this coming week. But Oklahoma-Texas, I think we both knew there was going to be a shootout. I think a lot of people thought, for some reason, a lot of people were saying it wasn't going to be a shootout, but I'm like, guys, it's the Big 12.
Everybody's always going to score 30 plus in that game.
Let's be honest. It's just the way it's going to happen. What was your most shocking part of that game? Was there something in that game that really just kind of like, I guess maybe not necessarily didn't see happening, but it was just like, wow, this is cool to see, or this is a very great play, or whatever.
Uh, I guess I guess that Oklahoma maybe has some merit to their season so far because coming in, we didn't really know what
Yeah,
Oklahoma looked like or what they really are because they hadn't played anybody, and even at this point in the season, there still are a handful of teams that haven't played anybody that there's just a lot of unknown about. But in
yeah,
those games, we knew that Oklahoma had struggled again, or not against the run, but to run the football. They've really
yeah,
been relying on Dylan Gabriel, which is why his numbers are as big as they are. And we also weren't really sure about the line of scrimmage and the defense. Those are things that have been issues with Oklahoma in the past. But I think we learned from the Texas game that they handled themselves or
hmm
have been handling themselves pretty well. Going in back to last season when you lost 49-0 and you were trying to rebuild if you're Brent
yeah.
Venables from Lincoln Riley tearing your team apart in the transfer portal. You've win 6 games, and then just a year later now you're the number 5 team in the country coming off a big win against
Yeah.
Texas, still undefeated. And wouldn't it be something if Oklahoma and Brent Venables made a playoff before Lincoln Riley and USC did?
Which is a very, and I know we'll talk about USC here in a bit.
It's
It's a
smooth
very,
sailing for Oklahoma at this
it's
point.
and it's a very realistic possibility. And also, I think I look at this game, man, and I thought Dylan Gabriel. By the way, he's my backup QB in fantasy. Man, I have Bo Nix and him, man. I'm set. But no, Dylan Gabriel looked like what they were hoping for. Again, I love what some of these other people like Joel Klatt and stuff said. Like a lot of people thought he was going to come in and just be that guy. Like he came back for another year, could kind of maybe be that maybe that guy that's like he's a system guy. He'll get what you need and kind of get done. But man, he balled out, man. Like I think he's the first quarterback to run for 100 yards, I think, or something like that, and pass for 250, something like that. It's in this rivalry game, I guess, which is kind of crazy. But Dylan Gabriel. By the way, that last play, I mean, how do you let a guy leak in the back of the end zone is just beyond me. When you're, by the way, the fact they had to go down the whole field is just still like, okay.
Yeah.
Texas defense is not as good as what we said, and I did say that last week. I said I'm still waiting to see a full thing for Texas. Like, can we see them put it together against a really good, a pretty good offense and all the way together? Because let's be honest, Alabama is not at that same level offensively. Now, Oklahoma did lose Anthony, transfer from Michigan, was their leading receiver, which is going to hurt them, I think, coming through the next few games. But no, I think Oklahoma played phenomenal. Again, just showed you Brent Venables is the guy, and maybe you're going to start seeing the old Oklahoma come back. But yeah, and I think that was what was an awesome game. I know we'll talk about Ohio State, but let's move into that. Maybe there's some other games, but do you want to talk about USC next since we kind of mentioned them?
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about
Okay.
them.
What was your thoughts on this game? Because by the way, I woke up at like 7 a.m. on that Sunday, and the game was still going on. So I just turned it on my laptop because I thought it was hilarious. The game was
I
still
see.
going on.
I did not stay up to watch that. I watched the first quarter, and I didn't think that Arizona was going to pull a win off or anything, even because it's their backup quarterback and stuff. But we're starting to see just how big of an issue this USC
Oh, dude,
defense
it's
really
so
is.
bad,
And
dude. It's so
as they're
bad.
starting to get into Pac-12 play, it obviously to start the season out of conference, the offense was going to look incredible, and the defense was going to look maybe a little bit better than what it was. But we hadn't even gotten into the meat of the schedule yet.
Yeah.
But Arizona State, Colorado, and Arizona have all been able to handle themselves against
Yeah.
this USC defense. And I can't wait to see this matchup against Notre Dame. I can't
Which
wait to see them go against Washington, Oregon, UCLA.
it yeah,
It
and
could be
if
very it could be very bad time for them.
and the thing is, if Notre Dame runs the ball like better than they did, and more like what they did against Ohio State, then I don't see how USC stops them. But also, it's kind of funny that the defense coordinator for USC is a former defense coordinator at Ohio State. There's a reason why Ohio State fired him after 1 year. There's a reason. This is the
But
obvious
what is
reason.
the reason that Lincoln Riley brings him everywhere he goes?
I have no idea, and it drives me nuts. But this is my thing, right? I think, look, we can talk about Lincoln Riley being a great offensive head coach, right? It was the same thing with Ryan Day. Until you figure out the defense, your offense can be a phenomenal offense. And it's kind of funny because USC fans remind me a lot of Ohio State fans, right? They're happy when they win 49-25 or 49-24. right? But then as soon as, you look at Ohio State, it was the same way for the last couple of years. They win 56-24. They're like, wow, this is a great win. But then they win, 23-3 against Indiana. You're like, oh man, this team sucks now, right? Like it's funny how a good defense can kind of change that opinion and maybe a struggling offense. But wouldn't it be crazy to think that this USC team could be, let's say, 5-4 going into the 10th game of the year, and you're sitting here going, I know, I don't, no, I don't think that. But what I'm saying is with this defense, look, can I see them losing to Washington? Yes. Can I see them losing to Notre Dame? Yes, if Notre Dame shows up offensively. If they just show up like what they did last week, I don't think so. But so those are reasonable. UCLA pulled off a win this past week, a good win. It's a good team. It's a solid coach team. That's possible. They play Oregon, correct? Yeah, they play Oregon. So
I think Oregon's on the schedule.
Yeah. So they play Oregon, right? Like that. There's at least out of there, you can see at least 2 losses, maybe more. I'm not saying they're going to lose 4 games, but I would not shock me. That's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to say that USC sucks, because they do have the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, but the offense only takes you so far. We saw that with Ohio State. We've seen that with other teams. The offense can only take you so far. TCU, the same thing. There's a point when you need to play defense. And if you cannot play defense, you cannot win championships. It's just the matter of fact. What does Oregon do well, Josh? They're a balanced football team. They play good offense. They play good defense. Same with Washington. Their defense is not great, but it's a solid defense. Oregon State, these kind of teams, like they're playing good enough defense to get you to win games. Ohio State, a decent defense. Georgia, obviously a good defense. Michigan, so on. So again, I'm not saying they're going to lose 4 games, but it would not shock me if they finished like 8-4, 9-3.
They end the year, like we said, at Notre Dame. They host Utah. They go to Cal, host
Utah's
Washington, go to Oregon, host UCLA.
Dude, don't count out.
Not many tougher stretches in college football than that.
Don't count out California. They're decent this year. Don't count out Utah. We all know what happens when you count out Utah. They decide to just come in and take a win. It's a fascinating scenario, and you have to agree with me though. Like Grinch is fired after this year, right? Like if they lose like 3 games, there's no way you keep them around.
They lose 3 games and the offense is scoring 30, 40 plus, and the defense is allowing 40, 50 plus. I think that's a change that you got to make if you're Lincoln Riley. It's a change that Ryan Day finally made. Jim Knowles, and it looks like that's panning out here in year 2. But yeah, if you're Lincoln Riley, you're gonna have to go and get a guy. Like you're about to go into the Big Ten, where defense is much more prioritized in that conference.
Look at the top. Look at the top 3. Top 3 teams, right? Michigan has averaging giving up 6 points a game. Penn State's giving up 9 points. Ohio State's giving up 10 points. Those are the top 3 scoring defenses in the college football. And USC's about to go in there, and you're going to compete with giving up 30 points a game. I don't think that's going to happen.
Especially when Dan Lanning's making offensive and defensive lines priorities over at Oregon. You can't fall behind on that.
Exactly. So moving on from the USC Arizona, obviously Arizona winning that game, losing that game, but Arizona played phenomenal. By the way, that Cohen, that dude had 4 touchdown receptions. He was amazing in that game. The reason they lost is because they had to go for 2-point conversions, and then USC just decided to do like an all-out blitz and just said, try to beat us. But yeah, that game was close, not as close. It's closer than it should have been. What are some other games there, Josh, that caught your think that you're like, hey, we should talk about?
Well, I think the Notre Dame loss too.
That was rough, dude. I think that was like the 3rd tough game in a row, man. I think they were going to lose at one point.
They've had 3 straight night games at home against Ohio State. You go to Duke, and then you go to Louisville. And I don't think that was a stretch that anyone thought was going to be tough.
Yeah.
Before the season started, as it ended up being. And
then now you're going to play USC.
USC at home at night. But yeah, that Notre Dame game, man, everything that I would have expected to be the case. Notre Dame owning the line of scrimmage didn't happen. Only had 44 yards on the ground. You're +4 in the turnover margin. Everything. Bad. And there was a couple bad penalties too that took away some scores, and it gave the game away, plain and simple.
Yeah, it was just not the Notre Dame we saw against Ohio State, nor the next week either. Like, I think this team I think, like that moment when you start seeing a team like hit that wall, and like, I don't know if this is the wall that's impassable, but it really looks like a wall that's going to be really tough. Like they're going to have to get around this. And if they beat USC, then they're right back on track. If they lose USC, then you're starting to ask questions. What's next?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And can we talk a little bit about this USC Notre Dame matchup? Since
Yeah,
we've
sure.
already
Why not?
basically
Yeah,
talked
let's
about
do
both
it.
teams last week. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think this is actually a great time for Notre Dame to get back on track. And I'm
I
going to
do
go
too.
ahead and say they win this game.
I already had a prediction written down on my phone, and I'll tell you what it is. The prediction was, I say Notre Dame wins. I'm going to say like 35-31. Like I still think USC puts up points because I think USC has that good of an offense. But I just don't like watching this USC defense last week against Arizona, second string quarterback, a team that's not that good. I don't see them stopping the run. I really don't see them stopping the run, and I also don't see them stopping Hartman just carving them up with really good tight ends. By the way, with two really good tight ends that are going to just split this defense in the seams. So I think Notre Dame comes out on top, 35-31.
I just see a lot of strengths on weaknesses in this one that favor Notre Dame.
Yeah,
So
agreed.
those three games that we mentioned that they've played, they've gone against the 3rd, the 4th, and the 22nd ranked defenses in college football, scoring defenses. And they're about to go to USC, who's ranked 79th. Notre Dame, I believe, is 5th in explosive plays, so 20 yards or more. And USC's defense ranks 130th in explosive plays.
How many teams are there in the FBS there, Josh?
There were 130. I think there's like 132 or 134 now.
So like the worst, basically.
Very much the worst at it, yes. USC has the 3rd best pass offense, but Notre Dame has the 3rd best pass defense.
And also, like,
so strength on strength right there to keep an eye on, because I mean that's how USC is winning games is Caleb Williams up to this point.
Yeah, for sure.
Caleb Williams is going to have to win this game. I think again.
Yeah, it kind of, doesn't it kind of feel like a Bryce Young situation with Alabama last year, where like Bryce Young had to win game after game for Alabama. It feels the same way for USC.
Never underestimate wounded animal mode too, because Notre Dame is coming off that tough road loss. They're going to be in their home stadium at night again, and
they don't want to lose again at night. They don't want to lose.
You don't want to lose again at night. No, for everybody to see, can't happen. We've seen it. I'm trying to think of who it was. Ole Miss with LSU, kind of the same situation. Come off and get a big win over there in a shootout with them, and yeah, I think we're going to see a much more motivated Notre Dame team. And if it's a team that like lays down and just gets blown out by 30 points, what a disappointment, man. Yeah. What a disappointing season already be, like 3 losses at this point. You still got to play Clemson.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be tough, but I just see, I don't see USC coming out on top on this. Like, I just really don't. It's hard for me to look and go, USC's going to win this game. It's too hard. Like if it was at home, okay, maybe
it's been close too many times with teams that they're way better than.
Oh yeah, for sure. So that's definitely something to be looking out for. Josh, what is another game from this past weekend you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about the Bucks, or do you want to talk about?
Well, since you rubbed it in my face about being wrong about Oklahoma, Texas, I want to rub it in your face that you were wrong about Ohio State scoring 60 plus on Maryland, and the fact that they were actually, I think, trailing at halftime.
They were.
What were you?
No, they
were.
They were not. They were not trailing at halftime. It was tied. It was tied.
They were not winning at halftime.
But they weren't trailing though. They weren't trailing.
Right. I'm important rephrase. They were not even winning at halftime. What was going through your watching this game?
I'll be honest with you. I was very frustrated in that first quarter, right? Like no one was awake. I mean, the offense looked dreadful. By the way, this whole game, and I want to say this now, this whole game, the offense line sucked. Like, I'll be honest with you. If you watch this, and Joel Klatt does a great job of like breaking it down, they never got to the second level. Now, if any of you've ever coached before, or you've been on the sidelines, offense coordinator or anything like that, like what I've done this past year, like, the success of a good running game is getting to that second level. Those backers for Maryland were just like in a feasting mood. Like, anytime that they saw a backer, they would go get it. They would go get him because the line wasn't getting up to their blocks. Now, some would say, well, he got sacked, 3 times. I'm like, yeah, but 2 of those sacks were McCord's fault in the first half. He didn't throw the ball away. He held it for like 20 seconds. Like, I'm like, dude, just throw the ball away. You don't got anything, let it go or run, get what you can. So yeah, I to be honest, that first half was ugly. Like if they do not get the pick 6, if Ohio State does not get that pick 6, it's a lot different game. It's a lot different feeling game going into half. It would be like, let's say it'd be 10-3, maybe 14-3. Then obviously Maryland gets a touchdown pretty early on in the third quarter, and then it'd be 17-3. And you're talking like this is kind of chaos mode for Ohio State. But in that first half, you did see some light coming into the after that pick six. Look, the run game never got going. They had the lowest run total in a win since 2003. They had 62 yards rushing. That's not helping Ohio State, right? And that's not going to get you to win many games late in the season. But I will say the defense defense like they do, they bend but don't break. Man, this defense, they don't get sack numbers. I think they're ranked like 117th in sacks. But what they do is they play amazing pass defense, and they're very good at filling those holes and where they have to, right? And that's what they did, right? Like the running back started beating them up a little bit in the first half, but Tagovailoa did not have a great game. The first half he did pretty well, but the second half was just clamped down. He obviously threw a second pick in the second half to Ransom, who had a great game. JT Tuilamolau also had a really good game just overall. Some good individual performances. Sonny Styles made another heck of a play when he ran across the field to tackle Tagovailoa. But honestly, I really want to focus on that second half because Kyle McCord realized, I think, early on that, okay, this was a game that's going to be on his shoulders. And what do you do when the game's on his shoulders, Josh, and you have to throw it? Who are you going to throw it to? What's that guy that you can throw to that's going to just make every freaking play?
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yes. As Gus Johnson would say, marvelous Marvin Harrison Jr. And the catch he made, I don't know if you saw the catch on the sideline where he was fading out of bounds, catches it, puts 1 foot inbounds, and then cuts back into the middle of the field. That was just mind-boggling of how he did that. Obviously, Emeka Egbuka got hurt. So we don't know his timetable. He could be out for this week. If you're smart, Ryan Day, just keep him out. But obviously Marvin had a great game, 8 catches, 163 yards. He had that touchdown that was called back. And then the next play, they're like, okay, fine, we'll throw it back to him again. But yeah, Kyle McCord played phenomenal. He played like a starting quarterback for Ohio State. He did phenomenal in that second half. Even though the run game never got going, he realized he had to win it with his arm. My favorite play though was that, which is so funny, that Maryland bit on a fake reverse and then got scorched down the seam by Stover. Like Maryland went from the first half to forcing Ohio State to run and stopping the run to the second half. Like, okay, we'll load 8 in the box, force you to pass. Like the worst decision you can make. But I hope that sums it up. But that's what I was thinking. Does that make sense, Josh?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think we learned that Maryland is a pretty good team.
Yeah, they're a pretty good team, man.
We knew that they were coming in undefeated, but their strength of schedule was pretty garbage. But overall, held their own with the Buckeyes.
Yeah.
Everything that you pointed out, though, yeah, I think we're learning that Ohio State run blocking.
It's rough.
I don't know. That's going to be really rough. Yeah, when you got to play Penn State and Michigan, especially when I don't know how you feel about counting on Kyle McCord to win you a game like you could with CJ Stroud, but you would really
he did do it against Notre Dame. He did do against Notre Dame. So
with the final drive, he did get that, led him onto that, but still to maybe have to do that a couple more times this year, I just don't know. And I know Travion didn't play in this game
that was
either.
A big thing too.
But still, you would like to see your offensive line be able to open up runs up the middle, and we're still waiting to see that.
Well, even what Ryan Day said, like Ryan Day came out today and said, like they were like, well, are you going to make changes in the offensive line? He's like, well, the second string guys aren't pushing the number 1 guys. Like they're not pushing for that spot. Like there's a big gap, which kind of scares me a little bit.
Yeah, it's like he's saying this is as good as we got.
Yeah, and I guess for me, I think part of it too is you have to mix it up a little bit. Like we might have to get away from the zone run block scheme, right? Like that's what they're good at. I get it. That's what they're used to. But sometimes just when they did get yardage, like with Mayan Williams and with some of these other backs, is like they just did the power run game, right? They lined it up, they ran it down the people's, Maryland's throw, got 6-7 yards. Like sometimes you just have to go away from something that's not working, or set up screens or just do things to get kind of a run. Right. It's still funny that Kyle McCord threw for 320 yards when he had a minus 18-yard completion. I don't know if you saw that play. Did you see that play?
Mm-mm.
So he got like chased around and then like avoided a sack. He's like 18 yards behind this line of scrimmage because he's like running around trying to keep the play going. And like Chip Trainum is like standing there and he flips it forward to Chip Trainum and Chip's like, oh, okay. And then he gets tackled for the loss of -18. So Chip Trainum had one catch for -18 yards.
So he should have just dropped it or swatted it.
Yeah. I was like, dude, what are you doing, man? Like, but I get it. He's like, oh, okay. But yeah, so that's what I would say about that. Again, I think there's got to be some change here in philosophy, and I think Purdue's a great game to do that. Now, the only thing I want to say about that, I want all Buckeyes fans to just breathe real quick, because we know the last couple times we went to Purdue, 2018, got destroyed by Rondale Moore somehow. I don't know how that game happened. Then we lost in 2011, we lost in 2009, and we've lost in 2000 at Purdue. So just know, since 2000, we've had 4 different head coaches lose at Purdue. So I'm just saying, Buckeye fans, you never know what happens in October. So let's just be ready. Let's go out and put the nails to the coffin. And by the way, since we're going to talk about Ohio State, I'm predicting an Ohio State victory, more modest, Josh, more modest this week. I'm going to say 31 to, I'm going to go 10. I think the defense will show up again. So I'm going to go 31-10. What do you got?
I think the defense will show up as well. The one thing about this year's Purdue team is that there's really not like star power on it, like you mentioned. True. Guys like Rondale Moore, and they've had David Bell in the past, and they've had some quarterbacks that can really sling it. And so far this year, it doesn't look like they really have that. So yeah. I'm feeling confident, if I'm an Ohio State fan, to win at least this trip to Purdue. That one's going to be going on at the same time that Michigan's playing Indiana. That's going to be, I think, two kind of bloodbath games.
Michigan's looking good, by the way. Michigan's looking real good.
They're heating up. They're getting some things figured out too. But unlike Ohio State, they're really not going to go through any tests until the end of the season. So
no, that's the other annoying part. But yeah, I mean, any other games you want to talk about for last week, or do you want to focus on maybe some matchups this week?
I think the only other one worth mentioning is the Bama Texas A&M game, just because of the way that Alabama won the football game with over 300 yards from Jalen Milroe and a multi-touchdown game from Jermaine Burton, of all people. Like that, we haven't seen Alabama. We didn't think Alabama could win a football game that.
We really didn't.
And what do you know? They go over to Kyle Field, and I mean, it is only 26-20, I think, was the final score. It was a close win, but we thought that if Bama was going to win this game, it was going to be because they finally figured out how to maybe run the football, or it was because Jalen was finally going to explode and push the limits and have a game that he's never really had before. And I was even thinking that Texas A&M might be able to win this game just because of how great they are rushing the. They were right up there at the top for sack rate, and Alabama's offensive line this year has been terrible, allowing some of the worst sack percentages, and also contributing to them not being able to run the football. But they come out of here with a big win, and maybe like Michigan, they're figuring it out too. Like the rest of the college football should have gotten them while they had the chance. But right now, I mean, the games coming up with LSU, Tennessee that we thought might be losses preseason, they're not really looking all that scary either.
No, there's a good chance. Yeah,
Bama could run the table in the SEC, and
now that Texas loss is looking a little worse than what it was the last few weeks.
The Texas loss, I don't know, man. I still think that Texas is a great team. If they can,
no, I agree. But I'm just saying,
if they can win a rematch with Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship, both of them coming in with, even if Oklahoma comes in with one loss, I think that's really good for Texas at that point. Still a good football team, but we both, I think, had Texas 1 and 2 in our power rankings. So I imagine they're not going to be there anymore. On your end, they're not going to be there on my end. So it has not been as impressive, but still an impressive loss, I guess, if you are going to lose to anybody.
That's true.
On your schedule. That was going to be their toughest game, we thought.
Yeah. And so now we got to talk about this coming week. We've already covered, obviously, USC game and Notre Dame. We've covered Ohio State versus Purdue. Any other games you want to chalk up and talk about a little bit here?
Yeah, I think we got a couple other ranked matchups that are worth mentioning, starting off with Oregon and Washington.
That's
number 7 game, versus number 8.
That's going to be so fun.
Washington is the home team. We're starting to get, like we mentioned with USC's remaining schedule, we're going to start seeing all these Pac-12 powers really go at it.
And what do we say? They were all going to start knocking each other off. That's just kind of the way.
This is typically what happens. Yeah, the Pac-12 cannibalizes itself. Very rarely do they have that one elite team that rises to the top. And
Oregon might be that team, though.
Oregon could be. I feel really good about them. Their defensive rankings way higher than what we see at Washington. I think Washington's like 93rd in either total defense or scoring defense right now. And while we haven't seen Oregon go against like a really elite offense, we saw them hold Colorado as 6, but obviously Colorado has the weaknesses on the line, and Oregon just overpowered them over there. We've seen them struggle a little bit against Texas Tech in week 2, but then even Washington has had their struggles too. Like we mentioned, USC struggling with Arizona against their backup quarterback this last week, and Washington went through the same thing the week before going against Arizona. Arizona's backup quarterback, and that's just a 1-score win for Washington too.
Yeah.
But Michael Penix, Bo Nix, these are 2 guys that we have in our Heisman rankings. One of them is going to have to, really stand out here. I think Oregon being one of the better running teams in the country too. Bo Nix doesn't have to be as spectacular, but this game I think is going to be on Michael Penix's shoulders just because of the weaknesses on Washington's defense. And then I don't know if it's that Washington can't run the football, but they definitely do prefer to throw it with him.
It reminds me a lot of the old air raid from the late 2000s where it was just like they didn't run the ball. They'd run for like 35, 40 yards, 60 yards, and then they'd just throw for a 400. I'm interested to see this game because I'm saying, like, is Oregon's defense that legit, right? Like, I think this is the first test we're going to see. Is Oregon's defense a legit top, 20 defense, 25 defense? Let's also see what Bo Nix does, against good competition. I mean, obviously, he's seen some decent competition, but see him do some things. Michael Penix, can he bring that Washington team truly to? Because let's be honest, if Washington wins this game, they are the team I think to beat in the Pac-12. It's the same with Oregon. I think whoever wins this game is kind of in that driver's seat of like, hey, we are the team. Now everyone has to come beat us. So again, I think I'm very interested to see how who wins the upfront battle. Right? Like who wins that? We know Washington in the past had a good defensive line. How good is it this year? Right? Like how good is Oregon's, offense and defense line? We know that Lanning is trying to build that up. So I'm very interested to see what happens here. What are your thoughts on the outcome of this game? Who do you really feel like is going to come out on top in that score prediction?
Yeah, I know Washington's the home team here, but there's just a lot to like in Oregon, I think, and I think I'm going to lean Oregon in this one.
Ooh, what do you think the score? What do you think that score is going to be? Is it going to be a shootout?
I don't know if it's necessarily going to be a shootout. I think both teams will probably score in the 30s, but give me Oregon in this one, and I think they're going to just make a couple more stops here. I think that not that Michael Penix, like we said, can't have a game where he throws 400 yards and 4 touchdowns because he's done it before. The betting favorite for the Heisman going into this game, I believe, took over.
Is it still him?
Caleb Williams. I think it's still him. Yeah, I think he's like plus 200 or something like that. But I don't know if this game is gonna. This is a big game for that too, for that ranking. So, yeah, like I said, Oregon. I'm gonna go ahead and take them. I think I like them better defensively in this one. I like them better running the football in this one. I like them better on the line of scrimmage in this one. So, yeah, go ahead and give me Oregon. Oregon by 1 score, I'm going to say.
I'm going to give a total here because we all know Josh doesn't like giving score predictions. So I will give a score prediction because I'm cool. No, I'm going to go. I'm going to say Oregon comes out on top. I wanted to say Washington, but Josh, I'm with you. I just don't know if I trust this Washington defense. I just don't. And especially since Washington doesn't run the ball. What if Oregon shuts down the pass? We have no idea what Washington does at that point. So I'm going to go Oregon actually by 2 scores. I'm going to say Oregon scores. I'm going to think it's going to be 42-28. I'm going to see a 42-28 game.
All right. I know your fantasy team will be happy to see Bo Nix play all 4 quarters.
Of course. Yes, because he never plays 4 quarters for my fantasy team. He plays like 3. And then I'm like, great. Thanks for giving me 25 points, Bo. You got me 35.
Man, so we got a couple of other top 25 matchups too that I think we'll be interested to see outcomes of. We're going to see Miami over at North Carolina now. Now, Miami, I don't know what you want to call it. What a
Can we talk about that?
Week.
I know we're not talking.
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't a game that we're going to talk about. But yeah, that is their first loss of the season. to Georgia Tech at home, and
So what did
yeah,
you
what
think
a
about that
way
play?
to lose
Now,
the
did
game.
you watch the highlight? Like, did you like if my
I
friend was
watched the
watching it live.
sequence. I
So my
watched the sequence. I didn't watch
okay,
it live, but I watched the fumble. I mean, you can say what you want about it, whether it was a fumble or not, whether they, properly reviewed it, whatnot. You can blame the defense for letting Georgia Tech march down the field, but all you have to do in that situation is just kneel it, and then none of that happens. And Mario
well,
Cristobal has owned that since. But
well,
yeah, what a disappointing way to lose a
dude.
game. You could have gone in this game undefeated.
Well, first off, dude, if you're the running back, you know that they're going to try to strip the ball. Like, you know this. And also, dude, go down like a yard after the play. Like, after you get to the line of scrimmage, just fall down. Like, there's no need to get extra yards. Like, and it felt like we were in Madden, right? Where you're trying to get the extra 7 yards to get like a certain, XP goal or whatever. But to me, I was just
Sure.
like, it
I mean,
just,
you can.
it was dumb, man. It was just it. I have a friend that's a Miami fan, and he said like he was literally like almost crying. Like he's just like sitting there, like, what are we doing? Even the announcer was like, they could just kneel the clock out. Like, and I like
Mhm.
if you looked at the sideline, it didn't look like Mario Cristobal knew what was going on. Kind of looked like he was confused what was happening. I
Like
don't
he had
know.
no idea that was the
It was
play that they were going
weird,
to run.
man. Maybe the
Uh,
quarterback just changed it, man. Maybe the quarterback was like, dude, we're gonna get some yards here. Um, but what a way to lose that game, man. Like, and
what a
also,
way to lose that game.
the fact that the next play, dude, you just have to play soft coverage. Don't let anything deep. What happens? They run a crossing route from one side of the field to the other, and he's wide open. Mind boggling to me.
Yeah.
Mind
Yep.
boggling.
I didn't think that we would get into that, but yeah, apologies to the Miami fans that had to relive through that again. But
the
definitely worth bringing up because now you have to go to North Carolina,
oh, dude,
and
that's gonna be North Carolina has a lot of
North
talent
Carolina,
coming.
North Carolina is undefeated this year, and while they haven't gotten, I don't think they've had a ranked win yet, but they have won by multiple scores against teams like South Carolina,
Yep.
against Pitt, against Syracuse. Miami is going to be the first ranked team they've faced all year. At least it's going to be on their home field. What do you what are you thinking, Ben? I know that North Carolina is one of those teams that most of us didn't think would be undefeated at this point just because of issues on the
Yeah.
defense, but the defense actually hasn't been so bad the last couple games. They've allowed 7, 24, and 13. But Miami is an offense that has proven to be explosive at times, especially in that Texas A&M game week 2.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that North Carolina got I think his name's is it I got him on my fantasy team. It's like is it Quez something?
Tez Walker.
Yeah. Who
Tez
by the way
Walker
is
is eligible now.
who is a freak. He only had like 6 catches last week, but
That was going to be one of their
um
big gets, and he is
yeah.
finally eligible now.
So that gives Drake May a huge threat on the outside, which is something they've been missing all year. They have not had that threat on the outside. You give him that. I'll be honest with you. My score prediction kind of I was thinking about it. I don't I think this is okay. This is gonna sound weird, Josh, but I feel like this could be like the downward spiral of Miami this year. Like how Miami always has that game
We've
every
been
year.
waiting for it.
Like they
They're
have that
kind of
game
waiting for it. Like,
where they just go
okay,
downhill.
okay.
Yeah. So I think this is where they keep going downhill. I'm gonna say North Carolina drops I think Drake May throws for like 450 yards. And I think you're gonna see they're going to put up, let's go with 45 points, and I think Miami scores 20.
It's interesting, man. One other thing that North Carolina's been able to do this year, at least better than they did last year, is run the football.
Yeah,
I
that's true.
think.
Yeah, they are.
Like,
Yeah.
would it shock you to know that Drake May has only thrown 8 touchdowns this season?
It is a little weird because I saw that stat line. I was like, that's a little weird. That's a little off-putting.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect it. Like, this was the kid that had to do everything last year in
Exactly.
order for them to win games. But
And run the ball last year, which he's not doing a lot this year, which is
yeah,
smart.
yeah, they actually have a running back that's their leading rusher, so they don't have to ask Drake May to do as much. There's a lot more contributions coming all around, and then like you said, with Tez Walker coming in, and yeah, this is a very scary spot for Miami's football team to be in. It is a similar boat, maybe what Notre Dame is in, where you're coming
Yep.
off a disappointing loss and you want to come back and bounce back. I think they are going to fight. I don't think there's going to be any lay down, but I like a lot more of what North Carolina has right now. I'm going to give them an edge here.
What? Give us a score prediction. Come on, Josh. Just one score prediction.
A score prediction.
Toss one out there.
Well, let me think of one here. Miami, North Carolina. Well, Miami's offense has been pretty explosive up to this point until they only scored 20 against Georgia Tech. So give me a North Carolina victory here. I'm gonna give them 38, and I'm gonna give Miami 29.
29. You and the odd numbers. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, so we got that one out of the books. What is another game? Maybe I don't know how many more you want to go over, but let's
Well,
let's
there's
let's
only
hit them.
one. There's only one other top
All right,
25
let's do it.
matchup, and it's another Pac-12 game where
Of course it
both
is.
teams have, I think, one loss at this point. It's Oregon State and UCLA.
UCLA is a sneaky good team, by the way. I just want to let people know
They
that.
are. They're winning in ways that Chip Kelly teams typically do not win games in, and
Exactly.
they're playing good defensive football, and they're getting contributions from the run game, and they're just tough.
Wait,
Like
what?
when
Chip Kelly's team tough? Wow,
a
it's
tough
been a
Chip
wild
Kelly
time.
team. Yeah, when we seen Chip Kelly at Oregon, we saw fast teams, but we also saw small teams, and we saw teams that could be pushed around. And this UCLA team this year is just they're coming off a gritty win over Washington State, which
It
they made
Cam
Cam Ward
Ward,
look
yeah, he looked
bad.
rough.
They made
Yeah.
Cam Ward look bad. Yeah, and Dante Moore didn't look spectacular in that game, but they're getting contributions from the running backs, and
Would it be crazy to say that UCLA looks more ready for the Big Ten than USC?
I think UCLA looks more like a Big Ten team now.
I
If you
agree.
wanted to say like, okay, this is a team that looks like maybe what some Wisconsin teams have looked in the
Yeah. Yeah,
past,
yeah.
maybe what some
Minnesota.
Michigan State teams have looked in the past, things like that. Yeah, they're definitely playing more of a Big Ten style of football right now. But yeah, I mean Oregon State, they're definitely a team that you can't overlook either. The one thing about UCLA, they lost to Utah 14-7, so close game there. They beat Washington State 25-17. So those are like the notable games they've played, and I'll give you a quick little rundown of Oregon State's notable games here as well. Let me get that pulled up. Wasn't their loss to Washington State?
I thought it was. Yeah, I thought it was like the week before, wasn't it?
Maybe not too
Yeah.
long ago. Yeah. Yeah, they lose to Washington State by 3. They defeat Utah by a couple scores, and then they're coming off a 12-point win over Cal where they put up 52 points. So this is going to be one of those close games. I think we've definitely seen more explosion from Oregon State's offense up to this point. So this is going to be another game where UCLA is going to have to like really make DJU earn it.
Yeah. And I think it's really tough for me to go a score prediction on here because what offense we're going to see at Oregon State, what's the defense going to be like, what are we going to see? But I think I'm gonna stick with UCLA. I mean, they had a really good win. They're coming off a good win, and I think UCLA pulls one out here. I think I'm gonna go UCLA. I'm gonna go like UCLA 28. I think I'm gonna go Oregon State 24. I think it's gonna be a close game, but I do think UCLA and their run game at the end of the game, I think maybe just drags this out a little bit and makes it a little bit of a slow burner at the end.
Yeah, Oregon State is the home team. They're a 3.5-point favorites. But yeah, I think that I might go ahead with UCLA and the road upset right here too. Nothing too crazy high scoring though. I'm gonna go ahead and I'll try to come up with a score here too. I'll say UCLA 27, maybe 27-24 UCLA.
Yeah, again, close. I think a close game, but a game that is definitely I think
I
one.
would like to see more out of Dante Moore in this one.
I
I've
agree.
been I've been waiting. Before the season, I said he was going to be I think the fourth best quarterback in this conference, and Chip Kelly's been trusting him, but it's it's been a lot of everybody else so far winning them games. I'll just
Yeah,
say that.
that is true. That is true. So yeah, that is the crazy game. All the games that we really wanted to focus on. Now I will say, Josh, we could talk about Florida. Oh wait, no one wants to talk about Florida.
We don't. Florida is playing South Carolina. It is Cocktober, as they say, so it's a dangerous time to play those Gamecocks.
and and I would say too is that even in the NFL, your Florida Gator brethren is just falling one by one, with Anthony Richardson out for now 4 weeks with a shoulder injury. I don't know if you knew that.
I did know that. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's okay. It doesn't really affect me though.
it doesn't really affect me. So yeah, that is what we'll go there. But let's before we go to the NFL or before we move on to baseball or anything like that, let's just quickly go over, not quickly, but we could talk about our power rankings for this week there, Josh. What do you think? Do you want to do power rankings first? Should we do power rankings first? Let's do power rankings first.
Power rankings is going to
So
be interesting.
I will review what Josh had last week. So Josh had Texas at 1, Georgia at 2, 3 Ohio State, 4 Michigan, 5 Oregon. I had Georgia at 1, Texas at 2, Ohio State at 3, Michigan at 4, and Washington at 5. Josh, has anything changed, and what is it?
A few things have changed.
We getting real. Oh, I could see him thinking. He'd been thinking.
Not really thinking, but it's tough for me to rank Texas, Oklahoma, and
That's
you
true.
you can come and hate me all you want for
Oh
this
no,
one, but
please don't. No, you're not. No, you're not.
I'm putting Texas down
Oh
from 1
my.
to 5.
Oh, stop it. No. No.
Look, I gave up on Utah too early last year just because they lost the game. I'm not making the same mistake this season. That could be the only loss Texas has all year. They
Oh
could
my
still finish the
gosh.
season 12-1 as a Big 12 champion,
Uh-huh.
beating Oklahoma in the
Uh-huh.
rematch.
Okay.
I think that's still something very realistic that could happen. What are the odds that Dylan Gabriel comes up and has another major game? That is yet to be decided, but
Uh,
I'm gonna go ahead and leave Texas in my top 5, but
oh,
at 5.
oh my goodness. Well, number
This is a
5.
power ranking, not an AP poll. Remember,
Yes, I know. Josh. I know. Well, number 5 for me. And I could have went multiple ways. I could have kept Washington. But I'm kind of doing with the kind of thing I did last week with Dylan Gabriel with Oklahoma, like all these different things, as I was talking about teams. I'm going to put Oregon at 5. Now this has nothing to do really with like against Washington. Oregon's obviously coming off the bye or everything like that, but I'm going to say Oregon at 5 for now. I probably will change after this week. I don't know, but I'm going to believe in Oregon. And I'm going to say Oregon at 5.
all right. And speaking of Oregon, I'm having Oregon at 4 right now. I
Okay,
think I had him. I
that's a good
think
one. Yeah,
think I had him at 5 last
you
week.
had him
You
at
said,
5 last week. Yes.
yep. So Texas obviously dropping down to that 5 spot. Oregon bumps up therefore to 4.
Well, for number 4 for me, and I'm probably going to get hate for this, but deal with it. I'm going to put Ohio State at 4. This is an Ohio State fan, but I just wanted to point out how this is because I've had people say to me that I'm biased. I literally am dropping down Ohio State 1. Like and I mean this sincerely. I really believe that as much as I believe in Ohio State, and I really do, like as someone who is an Ohio State fan, I'm looking at it a different lens, and there's a lens that worries me with that offensive line, with that lack of a run game right now. And so for me, I think there are a few teams that are playing better at this moment, a power rankings, as we just said, that are playing better at this moment that deserve, I think, a little bit higher in these power rankings. So I'm going to go Ohio State at 4.
All right. Speaking of Ohio State, it sounds like Texas is going to offset some of our picks. So I have Ohio State at 3.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, same reasons as you. I think I had them. Where did I have them last week?
3.
Three again. Yeah, staying at 3. Some teams are gonna go a little ahead of them, I think here, but yeah, some still to be desired there. But I believe in the potential,
Yeah.
especially
I mean,
since I haven't seen the defense really
yeah.
really fail at all yet this year.
Yeah, again, that's why I didn't drop them like to 5 or anything. Like like if the offense would have been like we would have won by 1 score again, and the defense would have played, then maybe I'd drop. But the defense played great. There's one team that now I'm going to say about 3, who again another one that might rustle some feathers. I'm going to go Oklahoma at 3. Man, I'm just sticking with it, man, because like I stuck it out there last week, and yeah, I'm gonna go. The way Oklahoma played, man, that was a great win. It was a great win against a Texas team. Now, was Texas maybe not as great as we might thought, but still, great win by Oklahoma. They have a really good quarterback in Dylan Gabriel, and I just like what they're doing. I like what Venables is doing. I like this style of Oklahoma football. They actually have a defense that is not terrible. It's at least decent. So I'm going to put Oklahoma at 3 and see what rolls. I'm probably going to really hate myself after I probably have to move them in a few weeks, but we're going to go Oklahoma at 3.
All right. Number 2 for me, I think I had Ohio State ahead of them last week. Michigan now is up to number 2.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, I think they're, like you said earlier, I think they're figuring things out. They're entering Big Ten play,
They haven't
and
played a lot of good teams though, so I think we're still
they
waiting to
haven't.
see that test.
So yeah, I would like to see them against a good team still, but at least against the bad teams, they're not winning by 1 or 2 scores like what USC is doing. They're winning these games maybe more so now, like how they're supposed to. Like early in
Yeah.
the season, we were like Michigan's only beating Bowling Green like 33-7, but at the same time, the defense is still looking incredible, but offensively they're figuring some things
Yeah.
out. So Michigan at 2 for me.
I'm gonna be with you as well. I think Michigan jumps from 4-2 for me. Their win this past week was phenomenal. Again, this is a Ohio State fan saying Michigan was phenomenal. I never thought I would say that in my life. But no, they've been good. Their offense is starting to click a little bit. I still McCarthy. This is the thing. I want to see a good defense face this offense and put pressure on McCarthy. I want to see him be under pressure. I want to see him make those tough decisions. I want to see them try to run the ball against a good front seven. I think when they play Penn State and when they play Ohio State, those are the 2 games that, like, okay, if Michigan does this against them, okay, then maybe we're the same. But again, we have to look at, they do not do well in the postseason with Jim Harbaugh. So is this the team that does it? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But again, I think they're the second best team in the country. That leaves number 1. And I think we'll say it on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. We have Georgia. It's just, I kept them there last week. I was like, they're going to be good this week, and they demolished this past week. So give your thoughts on Georgia.
Man. Yeah, we had kind of been leaving them at 1 most of the season, just out of respect for being the 2-time champ. And we're like, okay, well, at least on my end, after seeing them almost lose to a couple teams that probably shouldn't have even been games that were games, I was like, you know what? I kind of like Texas right now. And then Texas shows me a little bit about who they are, and Georgia reminds me who they are. Carson Beck, by the way, I know some people have taken issue with him, but when you got Brock Bowers,
Dude,
that's looking
like
maybe one of the most reliable targets in college football, you just feed that guy all day.
Can you just imagine a scenario where Brock Bowers and Marvin Harrison Jr. are on the same team? Oh my. Can you imagine that? You put a Mecca Buka in the slot? Oh, that is scary. That is a scary
crazy for sure, yeah. So yeah, there's our top 5 right there.
Now,
pretty close.
I will say with Georgia, I am worried about, do they have someone else outside of Brock Bowers? Because if you can find a team that can slow down Brock Bowers, who is that guy? That's the question. And the receiver tandem, at least in my eyes. All right, so now let's go to Heisman watch list. And I have a feeling there's a lot of movement in yours. Mine, not so much, really. Not so much for mine. Mine's a little bit steady. But let's start with you. Let's go number 5. I will read them last week. So last week, Josh had Quinn Ewers, Cam Ward, Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr., and Caleb Williams. I had Quinn Ewers, Dylan Gabriel, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix Jr. Who you got?
So we'll kick it off with number 5 right now, and it's gonna. I kind of hate doing this, but number 5 to me right now, I'm gonna throw Jaden Daniels in here.
That's a solid pick. I don't have any complaints with that.
LSU has 2 losses at this point. It is what it is. They might even have 4 losses by the end of the season, but the numbers speak for themselves. Jaden Daniels is second in the country right now in touchdown passes with 19. He's third in the country right now in passing yards with 1,969. As far as completion percentage goes, he's right up there too. He's completing like 72% of his passes. It's just a little too much to ignore right now. That completion percentage ranks top 10 as well. So
yeah,
it's not necessarily the team that's going to help him, at least in this case, but there always seems to be one guy that just his stats are too good to ignore. And
yeah,
I think Jaden Daniels is that guy right now. It was Shadur Sanders for me right now, but I think Colorado, as the season goes on, is going to have too many losses, even for the greatest of stats.
Yeah.
So Jaden Daniels could be that.
Yeah, I didn't know where to go with this one, and this might be just more of a lottery pick for me, and kind of like a throw in there, hope that it might get better. But I'm going to go Drake May. Again, it's not necessarily his numbers. Like you look at the touchdown passes, you're like, oh wow, not many touchdown passes. But this is what he did this past week with now a fully healthy kind of receiver crew and running back room. You getting this outside threat now. Yeah, I just think Drake May is going to be there at the end of the year. He's going to be up in that discussion, and I think right now he kind of fits in there. I can't put Quinn Ewers there because he lost a very big game and did not look good. So I'm going to go Drake May at 5.
I almost went Drake. It's just he has half the touchdown
Yeah,
passes that some of these other guys do. So I was like, that's kind of hard for me right now. But respect it. Number 4 for me, and as I said earlier, it would happen right after I take him out of my rankings, but I am putting him back. It's still in Gabriel, but I want everybody to know that I had him in my rankings before Ben ever even thought about it. I'm just so sorry.
I love how you have to point that out. That the fact
I
that
have
you
to.
took him out. Listen, you took him out and then now put him back in. I see.
You come on here and you always remind people when you get things right when I get them wrong. So I got to go ahead and be in here finding my wins where I can find them. It's like last year too, where I started off with Blake Corum in my top 5, and then I took him out, and then he ended up being the running back that I really thought he could be. And it's like, yep, he's back in my rankings now.
Well, I will tell you, Josh, that Dylan Gabriel is staying at 4 for me. Again, the top here is kind of similar, but Dylan Gabriel, I think he did phenomenal. He's inching closer to getting my top 3, but I think it's very hard to break those 3 Pac-12 quarterbacks unless something crazy happens this weekend, which will probably drop one of them maybe a little lower next week. But for this now, Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, that trio in the Pac-12, that's been at the top of my list pretty much all year, and it's staying that way. It looks like number 3 for me is going to go ahead and stay Bo Nix. I think once he starts to get into the tougher part of the Pac-12 and he starts having to play all 4 quarters, the numbers are gonna match or at least be better. And not that they've been bad by any stretch of the imagination, but he's leading one of the best teams I think in the country, and a lot of that does fall on his shoulders. So give me Bo Nix at 3.
3 for me is Caleb Williams. Again, it's nothing against Caleb. He's the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. I'm struggling to see. I guess he looks good. Like, I think he looks good. Like, this past week, he looked kind of rough against Arizona. He didn't kind of look himself. He had 3 rushing touchdowns, but those were kind of like, okay, you get those scores. It's fine. Again, it's also part of me that I also take the factor in that no one's ever won it 2 in a row. So that kind of plays a factor a little bit for me. But really, I just think the other 2 guys have played a little bit better consistently here the last couple of weeks and has led their team consistently a little bit better. But again, that's just my opinion. You can disagree with it. There we go.
All right, number 2, give me Michael Penix.
You okay.
Michael Penix is 2nd in the country in pass yards.
Yeah.
He is 3rd in the country in pass touchdowns. This is also another stat, I guess, to keep an eye on in this Oregon game. Michael Penix has actually only been sacked 3 times this year.
That's crazy.
Bo Nix also has only been sacked 3 times this year.
That's nuts.
But
Kyle McCord got sacked 3 times in one game last week. So,
but besides the point, that's going to be something interesting. Who can get after the quarterback a little better in that one too? Because none of them have really been under much pressure this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, Michael Penix, 74% of his passes being completed. That ranks up near the top as well. So once again, Michael Penix, number 2 for me.
Number 2, Bo Nix. Everything you said, I ditto that. I think he's a phenomenal player. It's kind of cool to see him coming from back when he was at Auburn, struggling a lot with the passing and everything like that. And now he looks like a legit quarterback that has a chance to make a lot of money one day. So I'm going to go Bo Nix, number 2.
All right. Well, number 1, the guy whose name I haven't said yet. I'm sticking with Caleb Williams at 1 right now.
Oh, I thought Kyle McCord. Sorry.
Still sticking with Caleb at 1. The numbers are still on pace to be better than what they were last year.
Yes,
leading the country in 22 touchdowns, 1 interception, over 70% of his passes completed, 1,800 yards, which also ranks top 10. It's just until he proves to me that he's not, or until Michael Penix or Bo Nix are the obvious better pick, I'm sticking with Caleb Williams for now.
I'm going to go Michael Penix for every reason you said. Just the amount of his numbers are just phenomenal. Like 74% completion. Do you know how hard that is? That's ridiculous to just have that consistency. Also, he's a lefty. I mean, come on now. You can't go wrong with having a lefty QB. So I'm going to go Michael Penix Jr. number 1. That is our power rankings and Heisman rankings for week number 7. Crazy. And so we're going to briefly talk about upcoming games in the NFL, and then we will talk about postseason baseball and how sad Ben is right now. So let's just talk about why don't we talk about the upcoming Browns game, because I think that is an important topic, because
That's
we're
the
Browns
main
fans.
one. That's the main one. We're coming off
A bye.
the bye
We
week,
didn't lose.
and then
Didn't lose.
did not lose. And then the week before, obviously, we're running with our backup running backs and our backup quarterbacks in that one, and it looked like a game ran by backups, and Baltimore controls the game, gets the easy win there. And it could be the same situation once again this week, except this time it's going to be against the undefeated San Francisco 49ers.
They're good. They just
going against George Kittle, going
Yeah.
against Brandon Ayuk, going against Deebo Samuel, going against Brock Purdy, going against Christian McCaffrey, going against Trent Williams,
Nick Bosa. Yeah.
So much more star power. This one, if Deshaun does
And
not play in this one, could be even uglier and unwatchable, Ben.
well, and I'll be honest with you, what they made the Cowboys look like is sad. The Cowboys gave up 41 points going into that game. They gave up 42 to the 49ers, scored 10 points. I was watching Kurt Benkert. He's a former NFL quarterback. He does like these things on YouTube, like goes through different guys' film. He was just talking about how like this defense is scary and how like they made Dak look like a 5-year-old playing quarterback. And I'm sitting there going like, Deshaun, maybe you just don't want to play this week. Like maybe you just get healthy, because right now Jedrick Wills cannot block. He's like got one of the worst sack rate or like pressures given up. There's no running backs really. Like we haven't found a running game. I don't know. This game is going to be either fun and a great upset. PJ Walker supposedly is going to be the starter, who I didn't even know was on the roster until like now. Yeah, so PJ Walker was signed to the practice squad at the beginning of the season, and then when Deshaun got hurt, he got elevated to the roster, but they started DTR, and now they're saying that instead of DTR, they would play PJ Walker, who, by the way, got cut by the Bears in the offseason, had a $2 million guaranteed money. They literally ate that money because he was so bad in preseason that he got beat out by a Division II quarterback that is now on the roster of the Bears. That just shows you how rough his preseason was. So I don't know.
PJ Walker did ball out in the XFL though.
He did, because XFL is just top of the league right there. No, this game is going to be rough, man. I think the Browns defense keeps it close for a while. Like I do think they can kind of control.
That is our saving grace, is the defense. I still have my reservations about
the
rush D though.
Yes, I am worried about Christian McCaffrey just eating them for breakfast. But
even more interesting, Ben.
Yes.
Let me tell you some of the gambling lines right now. So even all that said, the 49ers are only a 7-point favorite. The over-under line is 37. So they're thinking.
Is it at Cleveland?
It is at Cleveland.
Okay, that does give you a little bit of advantage.
They're saying a 22-15 final score, which sounds incorrect.
Weird.
That's a weird way to say it, but it's just like, dang, I can't see this game being 22-15 if PJ Walker's our quarterback and Jerome Ford's our starting running back in this one. I guess Vegas still very much thinks highly of the Browns defense in this one.
Yeah,
because like you said, the 49ers offense just put up 42 on a also good Cowboys defense.
Yeah. Now the Cowboys defense was out with some guys, so again, but still they just look bad. But again, I love Stephen A. Smith, because every time the Cowboys lose, it's actually worth watching ESPN to see him react about it. It's the only time to watch ESPN. But no, in general,
the one other thing I will mention too, after this 49ers game, it's the Colts, the Seahawks, the Cardinals, the Ravens, Steelers, Broncos, Rams, Jags.
So Bears. They do have a favorable schedule after this game. So don't freak out, Browns fans.
It's not the worst. It's not the worst. A loss, no matter how ugly to the 49ers, does not end our season by any means.
Yeah, and if
we can get to any kind of form like what we were against the Titans and the Bengals.
This is my thing too, Josh.
We can handle that stretch.
I think if you just like I'll ask your stance. My stance on the whole Watson situation is you if he's not 100%, just sit him out. Do not risk it being a Baker Mayfield situation again. Just sit him out, let him get healthy, and then take what you have to. I've heard people say go trade for Jacoby Brissett because he's not really playing. That's a great option. You could do that. What is your thoughts on it? Do you agree with me, or do you feel like he should go out and play?
I'm with you. If his shoulder still is in a situation where he can't throw anything farther than a 10-yard pass, like with the Baltimore game, just sit out, eat it, and then if it is a more serious injury, I don't know if it really warrants a trade for a Jacoby Brissett. I still do kind of miss Josh Dobbs, but if it's only going to be another week kind of thing,
Yeah.
I don't think that there's any point in going out and trading for a quarterback
Yeah.
that's going to make us a little bit better
So let
for
me
one
yeah,
week.
let me
But
give you your thought then. Give a score prediction if Deshaun Watson's playing. Score prediction if Deshaun Watson's playing. A score prediction if he's not playing.
if we have a healthy Deshaun Watson and he's playing in this game,
Yes.
I still don't think it's enough to beat the 49ers, but I think I'm feeling a little bit better about myself after watching it. I'm not like that Baltimore game last week where I'm just done at halftime and sleeping through the fourth quarter and just in misery. I think that game is a much more along the lines of a 49ers -7, but if we don't have Deshaun in that game, this one could be ugly, Ben. Very
So
ugly.
give me your thought. Give me your score if he's in. So because that you say it's gonna be closer. What would be your kind of like your score guesstimation?
Yeah, I think compared to what we saw last week, Deshaun Watson is definitely worth 2 touchdowns. So go ahead and give me Cleveland 21, but the 49ers, I think, are scoring about 30 in this one. 28-30.
And then if they don't have Watson, you're saying like maybe like a 35 to like 10 score.
Yeah, we're scoring like 7 if we're lucky without
Yeah.
Deshaun.
I am similar talk. I again, I'm not going to be like the band, the exciting fan that's going to be like, yo, we're going to win. No, I think even with Deshaun playing, I just don't trust the run game right now. I really don't. It's kind of weird that both the Ohio State and the Browns have terrible run games. Oh, it's so sad. But I'm going to go if Deshaun Watson's playing, I'm going to go 49ers 27, Browns 21. Like I think it's within a touchdown game. I just don't see them getting over that hump. And I do believe that one of those, I think both scenarios, one of the touchdowns for the 49ers will be a defensive touchdown because just for some reason.
Backup quarterback, crazy things happen,
Yeah.
you know.
And I'm going to go, if there's a backup quarterback for the Browns, I'm going to go, oh, yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be ugly. I think it's going to be like a 34 to like 6 game or 34-3 game. Like it's hard for me to look and go, yeah, PJ Walker, lead us to victory. But if he does,
Right.
we will both be here praising next week, praising the Browns and their coaching staff for making the right decision. But I think we're both looking at this as a loss. It'll be 2-3 going into playing Indianapolis, who won't have Anthony Richardson, who I think helps you a lot when you're game planning, and maybe it gives you a chance to win a few games in a row.
Yeah, for sure.
Any other big games you want to hit up before we move into baseball?
Let me give a quick little run through right here. None of the matchups when I was looking at them earlier really jumped out to me.
What do you
We
think
got a
about
lot
what
of
do you think about the Dolphins getting Claypool, and then their rookie running back who's averaging, by the way, 12.7 yards a carry is going to be out for 4 weeks. Achane or whatever his name is.
Devon A-Chain. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a clutch pickup for my fantasy football team. I've had him and David Montgomery just putting
And
up
now
60
you're not going to have
points
him.
between them. And yeah, I'm not going to have him. So hopefully Saquon Barkley can get back and being healthy because that's the whole reason I signed A-Chain to begin with. But yeah, I think we got a lot of mid-offs this week in the NFL, Ben, and maybe there'll be competitive, exciting games just because of that. But the ones that I guess jump off to me that are like, okay, that could be interesting are the Bucks and the Lions.
Oh, that's going to be a good one. Lions, by the way, congrats there, Aaron Lynn. You got a winning program. You got a winning team.
Mm-hmm. Bucks and the Lions. So I'll go ahead and throw them out there. And then one other one, I guess, is the Monday night matchup with Dallas and the Chargers, just to see, I guess, how does Dallas respond after that beat down that they took from the 49ers in prime time the week before. Honestly, those are the only two that I'm like, oh, yeah, these ones kind of could be fun to watch. But
yeah, I think it's one of those down weeks. I really looked around at the games. I don't see any games where I'm like, man, this is like worth me sitting down and watching for 3 hours. Yeah, it is not. I mean, I was shocked last week when the Steelers beat the Ravens. Did not see that coming.
There's going to be a one or two matchups like that we didn't
Yeah,
see coming for sure.
yeah, and that's gonna happen. Question is, do you think the Bears have found themselves a little bit? Do you think they've Justin Fields? Do you think he's starting to prove that he's maybe not the bust that people are talking about?
Yeah, I preface that Justin Fields is maybe proving he's not the bust, but the overall team
Okay,
is
yeah, that's maybe
still
true.
1-4. But the good news is the Vikings are also 1-4 and don't have Justin Jefferson
And
playing this game.
And fun fact, Justin Jefferson has more receiving yards, career receiving yards than anybody in the Bears have ever had. Like any receiver in their career has never had more than Justin Jefferson, which is
Yeah.
very sad. But even if you look at the Bears, Justin Fields, by the way, is on pace to set a lot of very good career highs, and probably could lead the NFL in a few categories if he keeps this pace, which I don't think he will, because they'll figure out that he throws it to one player and that's it.
One player, yeah. And then he's gotten some pretty favorable matchups, I'll say, too,
Yeah.
against some defenses.
Yeah.
Not so great defenses. So
that's good.
happy for the kid, though.
I also saw that Sean Payton and the Broncos have lost to their two former head coaches, a former defense coordinator, and a former ball boy. That's who they've lost to this year. That's
Correct.
how bad they are. Very bad. And they beat Chicago on a last-second kind of play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one was a sad one to, I guess, see how it panned out because Chicago started off so hot in that one. And, man, yeah.
What a day.
That's pretty much, yeah, I think that wraps up everything NFL that
Well,
I
that wraps
wanted to
up the
point out.
NFL, but you know what? We would talk about NHL, but neither of us have really paid attention other than knowing that it started. So we are going to talk about baseball, and Josh, I'm
As we
depressed
speak,
today.
right now, Ben, the Phillies are up 4-1 on the Braves in the third.
And would this be the win? Would this win the series?
This would put Philly up 2-1 in the division
Okay.
series. You got to win 3 games.
That's true. But all I do know is that, Josh, I'm a little depressed about my pick for the World Series to win. Very ashamed. I do apologize to the world for assuming that a team who is always known for losing would somehow decide to go and win the World Series because, I am a Reds fan, so I do know how that feels. But yeah, the Baltimore Orioles were knocked out, getting swept by the Texas Rangers. There's a very good chance that we see a all Texas ALCS.
It is possible. The Astros are up 2-1
Yes.
right now. Maybe when this comes out, they do play the Twins tonight, and that series can be a wrap. The Astros are my pick out of the American
Yes,
League.
Yes, I know. Let me know
But
about it.
I'll let you know a little bit about it. I mean, they haven't been the most glamorous team to watch all season. 90 wins. They've dealt with their injuries, but they just got that experience in the playoffs, man. And Jordan Alvarez is putting on a show
Unreal,
so
dude.
far, batting over 500 right now in the playoffs and hitting dingers and just looking good, man. Everybody else on that pitching staff too that maybe hasn't been the best this season. Framber Valdez, I like that dude. I like Javier. I like Verlander. The Twins have put up a fight. I'll say though.
They're
I think
young. They're
watching,
young.
yeah, and watching Carrera, a former Astro, make some plays on him too. It's been kind of like a fun little villain on the other side to make that series a little more interesting. Also tonight, Ben, the Diamondbacks could put the Dodgers away, and the
Which is
biggest question.
choke, choke, choke. That's what we
Big
always talk about.
choke. Will the Dodgers have a starting pitcher make the third inning, Ben, this postseason?
No.
Because so far they have not.
No, this is my question though to you, Josh. Is this now going to be the norm for the Dodgers? They win 100 games or so in the regular season, and then they can't make it out of the first round. Like, is this what we're now looking at for the Dodgers? Because that's where I feel like they've been, and I don't know if it's changing.
Yeah, I think this season the Dodgers overachieved.
I agree.
And
yeah,
just moving on from some guys like Trey Turner and Bellinger and Justin Turner. They've dealt with their fair share of injuries. They've had some new kids on the block that have panned out pretty well, like James Outman, but still managed to win 100 games somehow. And not that they are a bad team by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just kind of like, I don't really believe you're a legit 100-win team.
Yeah.
And not that I thought the Diamondbacks were going to be the team that eliminates them.
I
And
mean, they barely made the playoffs, the Diamondbacks, if you
they
look.
did. And I've had my gripes about Dave Roberts as a manager. I think he makes some pretty stupid decisions sometimes. But if you're starting pitchers like Clayton Kershaw can't even get you out of the first inning, it's like, what else can you do?
Yeah.
So that's yeah, it's the Dodgers. I'm sure they'll figure out a way to spend some money and get some more superstars over there again. I mean, you got Mookie Betts and you got Freddie Freeman, which is never a bad thing. But yeah, it's a sad time to be a Dodgers fan right now. That's for sure.
And even the Braves, like your team that you chose to win, could be on the brink after today, on the brink of elimination, possibly.
Shutout game one, something that they haven't been all season is shut out and come right out the gate. Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola, I mean, they ball out in the playoffs. Simple as that. Pitchers for the Phillies. But the other thing about the Phillies too, kind of a similar situation to what the Astros have been, where we just been waiting for some of these guys to just step up and be who they are. Like Trey Turner, been kind of underwhelming most of the season. JT Realmuto kind of underwhelming most of the season. And I mean, Schwarber, we know he hits home runs, but he strikes out a lot and didn't even bat 200 this season. That's who you got leading off for you most of the time. But all of their superstars are showing up. They did show up at the end of the regular season to make sure they stayed into the playoffs.
What about
And they
that double
definitely
play?
showed up, and
Yeah.
they definitely showed up so far.
And that double play to that game where who was it? Oh yeah, it was the Braves that made that double play in last game where they caught it and then threw it back in the infield and somehow got a double play, which was a phenomenal play, and it kind of saved where they were going in that series.
Yeah, so it's like if you look at it this way, if you could tell me like, yeah, the Phillies, like all their superstars are actually going to play like superstars, then it's like, okay, this is going to be maybe a series that goes to 5 games, but it's just the way that Atlanta played all year with the run differential and the dominant
Yeah.
pitching and the dominant batting with Olsen and Acuna leading most of the league in all the main statistical categories. It was like this team just, looks incredible. 104 wins they got, I think was their regular season total. And what version of the Phillies are we going to get? And it's looking like the Phillies that were at least the team that made the World Series not too long ago.
Yeah. And it's a phenomenal time to look at. And again, we will continue giving you updates on baseball and so on as we go through. Nothing crazy in soccer, but there is something that I did want to just mention. Did you know, Josh, that the Olympics have approved to have baseball, softball, cricket, I believe, and flag football is going to now be approved in the Olympics in 2028. Maybe Coach Bowden could take the Hungarian flag football team to the Olympics. Wouldn't that be a podcast episode? I'll fly you out. We'll do a little thing in LA, man. We would have a great time.
And you might actually get met by some NFL guys too, because Tyreek Hill came out and tweeted, I think pretty soon after this news was announced, of
Can you
maybe
imagine
recruiting
though?
a team together. And I'm like, we're actually going to get NFL guys that want to play in this.
Can
Really?
you imagine if you got an NFL team versus a bunch of like countries that don't have the same type of athlete? Just imagine.
It'd be like the
Oh, my
92
word.
Dream Team, dude.
Be not even fair. But yeah, I know like JaVale McGee plays flag football. I think kind of
Yes, he
professional
does.
flag football. Which can you imagine a 6'10" dude playing flag football? I can't. It is phenomenal. But that is happening. So that is news that I've shared on our story. But again, we hope you're having a fabulous time. And also, I never mentioned this. This is like episode like 105, I think, or 106. I think it's 105. We never celebrated episode 100, like 5 weeks ago. And I mentioned that to Josh like after I recorded everything. But we do want to say thank you for these 100 plus episodes. I want to thank Josh for joining in. I think like episode 20 something he joined in. It's been absolutely phenomenal. I hope you all have loved it. Josh, I know you've loved it. It's been kind of fun to rekindle that old university radio kind of style of show. How do you feel after we're, like 100 episodes? It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I guess I'm just happy that we've been able to be consistent for the past year or two, even being in different time zones and me going through different jobs and you even adding on like coaching your plate and stuff. And we're still finding a way to make this work once a week. So
It's
thanks for
phenomenal.
listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening. It's phenomenal. Again, check us out all over social media. And again, I'm Coach. Speaking of Coach, I'm wearing Cowbells gear today. So if you want to come watch a game, let me know. I'll shoot you the link and you can check out our games online. But anyways, We hope you had a fantastic time with us today. If you've enjoyed watching this on YouTube, go ahead and click that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. That lets us see that you're enjoying it. You're enjoying the content. You want to see more of the content. What other things maybe you want a guest on? Let us know. But no, maybe we'll have my dad on again. No, we don't want that. I don't know if we want that again. But no, we appreciate you listening and watching. And if you are listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, make sure you share that link with friends and family. Let them know what's going on. Like, hey, the Baseline Podcast is where it's at. So let us know in the comments below what you have enjoyed so far about our 100+ episodes. What are some things that you would like to see in the future? And as always, we'll see ya.